It's the Sean Widmer Podcast. It's a journal by someone that just really doesn't like to write.
I have been very excited to record this episode of the podcast, and I want to get out in front of it because you might have seen the title of it and immediately clicked away or not clicked in. And so, well, at that point, if you haven't clicked in, it doesn't matter. I know this title is about video games. And you may be going, well, I don't like video games. I'm telling you right now, this is story time. This is story time. And as much as there will be video games in this, it is a lot of life stuff in this. For me personally, this is an important podcast episode. This is one that I'll mark down. This is one I will save to a separate file so that later on in life, this is one of those journal entries I'm going to want to look back on and really remember. Okay, that's what this is to me. It's a very important one. There's a trend that hit the internet a couple of weeks ago. I'm late to the trend. I talked about this on the Patreon video the other day. I'm late to the trend. I wish I was hip and up on all the trends. I'm not. I love them all. I don't get to them immediately. This one I love. Okay, 10. I need to remember exactly what these are called. Here we go. 10 games to get to know me. 10 video games to get to know me. Those are the ways they were titled. I think the main one is just 10 games to get to know me. So this is not a top 10 video game list. That's not what this is. This is not my 10 favorite video games of all time. Now, I will tell you there are some of these games that are for sure in my top 10 video games of all time. But these are, you are in an elevator and it's stuck. And the people around you are like, well, let's get to know each other. Explain to me who you are through video games. These are the 10 games that I would say throughout my course can get a good barometer, a good description on who I am. So there's also no particular order in these. These are not 10 to 1, 1 to 10. I will say this. I saved the most important video game in my life for the very last one. So as much as this is not a 10 to 1, the single most important video game of my life will be the last one. All right? And we'll get into why that is. But I say we just get right into it. The 10 video games to get to know me. You can take your guesses, pause and take your guesses as to what they are. But because you might know some of them, you might be involved in some of them. And there's going to be some honorable mentions at the end because games like when Brandon and I were into Fall Guys was such a huge game for us. It's not on the list, but like that's a super important one for me. So I might throw some honorable mentions at the end, but we'll see. We'll see. Oh, I think I'm on a streak of like 30 episodes in a row where we haven't gone above or we haven't gone beyond or cut it short than 15 minutes. This is your favorite 15-minute podcast. And I think we're on a 30 episode in a row streak, maybe longer, of being within like 5 seconds of 15 minutes. So as much as I'm looking at this list and going, this is going to take longer than 15 minutes, I think we can get it done. I think we can get it done in exactly 15. Let's start with number 1, the 10 video games to get to know me. We start with MLB The Show 99. MLB The Show 99, Cal Ripken on the front cover. I'm actually Googling that because I believe that's right. Before MLB The Show was on all consoles, it was a PlayStation exclusive. Let me see here. It was just called MLB 99. Cal Ripken on the front. Why couldn't I remember that? MLB 99. This game comes out in, I need to make sure I got the date correct. It's got to be March 1998. April 1998. April 14th, 1998. Why is MLB 99 important to me? Well, when I was in high school, I grew up in Venezuela. From elementary school through high school, moved back to the States after I graduated high school. And my last 2 years in Venezuela, after my sophomore year and after my junior year, I came back to the United States from Venezuela, and I was able to work for my grandpa tiling apartments. Okay, my grandpa, Gramps Woody, Melvin Elwood Woody Widmer, he had a tiling business, Widmer Ceramics. And he would tile. He was a teacher, but he would tile during the summers and during winters and went out on weekends and stuff. And my grandpa's an all-time handyman. And I love my parents to death. And one of the greatest things they ever did, and I'm sure this is how a lot of parents can be. You look back and maybe you see, excuse me, is it gonna be another water episode? You may see some of the things you did that you feel are shortcomings, right? I can already tell you there are things with Huck and Olivia where I'm like, dang it, I could have done better there. And I think my parents see that, because sometimes my mom will be like, oh, I wish we would have done this and that. They were perfect. They're perfect parents. I couldn't ask for anything more or less from them. They were just wonderful. And one of the greatest things they did was send me to the States these 2 summers, because it helped as I grew up in a completely different culture from the U.S. with friends in Venezuela, and I was able to get time with my family, my grandparents, my cousins, Ryan and Scott, 2 of my very best friends. And I was also able to understand and get to meet Americans that I was going to be interacting with when I moved back up from Venezuela. And it's an extremely different culture. A lot of people who are in my shoes, who grew up overseas and come back, they suffer with extreme culture shock. In fact, every year, if you were coming back to the States, the seniors at our high school, and then any other kids who are moving to the States permanently, they did a re-entry retreat, is what they called it at our school. There was pretty much, it was supposed to be something that would get you ready for the differences in where we were growing up and what was going to be happening in the States. They were terrible about it, because the people who ran this, they were not culturally savvy to what the U.S. is. So whatever. It was weird, but there is a major struggle with that. So my parents sent me up after my sophomore year, after my junior year. And after my sophomore year, I came up and I worked for my grandpa. I worked enough shifts early in the summer to pay for my plane ticket and like some lodging and food. So I think I made like $1,000. Like my first $1,000 I made went to Gramps and Graham. Covered my ticket and room and board for the summer. Then the money became mine. Now, as the summer went on, I realized I wanted to come back the next summer. So I actually worked to get my plane ticket for the next summer. So that was taken care of. So I got that. That was great. Okay. And so I did that. But I had, because we were working all summer, I had some play money, some fun money. And the very first thing I bought with my fun money, and the very first thing I bought in the United States of America with my own money that I earned, was a Sony PlayStation. The summer of 1998. I went to Target on Sprague Avenue. What was that? Sprague and... It's near Sprague and Pines. Maybe a little further down than that. I forget what the cross streets are. It's further down than Sprague and Pines in Spokane. But I went down, got the PlayStation, and I bought MLB 99 and Showdown 98. And I played MLB 99 with Ryan and Scott forever. We played this game hours upon hours upon hours that summer in my Gramps and Grams basement. Season after season, career after career. We created creative players in this game that summer that have lived eternally in my life forever. Jim Hormone. I have made the character Jim Hormone in every single video game that has creative player since 1998 because of MLB 99. We had a whole team of guys: Steve Sloan, Ron Parks, Charlie Parks, Gaz Watmos, Ryan Scott, me. We had a whole team of guys we played with, and they were awesome. By the way, sorry if there was a weird cut. If you're watching on YouTube and Spotify, I had to go get water. I think it's going to save my life, this podcast. I don't know what's going on with my throat, but whatever. Anyways, MLB The Show, MLB 99. MLB 99, my first video game I ever bought, and I love sports. That's a sports game. Is it the only sports game in my top 10 or in my 10 games to get to know me? I guess you'll have to listen to 9 more to find out. The second game I'm going to bring up to define me, to get to know me, and maybe this is more of an age thing, but I think there's a story with this that's important to me because it's about someone that I love deeply, just like MLB 99 is the game that bonded Ryan, Scott, and me, lifelong friends. I know we're cousins, but I would take a bullet for either of them. Truly, if either of them ever called me, and I have a small group of people that if they called me right now and said, you need to come back to Spokane for something, and they needed it, I would come up with the money and get back there. And they're two of those guys. And MLB 99 and that series, but MLB 99 really helped us bond on that friendship. Super Mario Brothers, the first one on Nintendo, is gonna be the second game I mentioned on my list. This is the very first video game I really remember playing. 1998. This is gonna be beginning of summer 1998. My family was in Costa Rica in 1987 to 1988. And we moved from Costa Rica, where my mom and dad learned Spanish, to Venezuela. I'm getting ready to start first grade. We moved to Venezuela, and while our house that we were going to live in was getting prepared, the school my dad taught at, they had a bunch of houses for the staff, for teachers, and I think someone must have been moving out of the house we were going to stay in, and we were going to move into it. So while we're waiting to move into this house, we stayed at the Knights house. And the Knights were another family down there, another missionary family down there. And we stayed in their house. I think they were in the States for the summer. They had a Nintendo. The Knights had all the cool stuff. They were awesome. And so they had a Nintendo, one of the only Nintendos ever to come through Venezuela, or our little area in Venezuela. And so we got there, and I remember the first night we were there, I saw it. And it was connected to a TV, so I'm already excited. I'm 5, 6 years old. And I'm like, well, I've got to know what that is. And I hooked it up and turned on Super Mario Bros. And it's the Super Mario Bros. Duck Hunt version, and put it in. And I was like, what is this? What is this? This is everything. There's that little man. I've got this controller in my hand. I'm moving him. This is awesome. And so, Super Mario Bros. Kind of was the game, right? Just the Mario Bros. Games, whether it was Super Mario Bros. To an extent, Super Mario Bros. 2, but I know Mario 3, Super Mario Brothers 3 gets a ton of love, rightfully so. It's one of the greatest video games I've ever played in my life. It's way better than Super Mario Bros. But one of the things that was cool about Super Mario Bros., and I remember this and I'll never, ever forget it, my dad played it with me. Now, we didn't beat it, and my dad probably didn't play it for more than 2 hours. But as a first grader, right, and your dad is everything, and your hero, and my dad's still the best. I love him so much. He is awesome. But I remember being totally captivated with this video game system and thinking, this is so cool, and assuming that I was going to be on an island on this one. My sister's not going to care. Mom's not going to care. And Dad came over and sat down and at least fiddled with it. Now, it did not stick for him like it did for me, but he at least played with it for a second. And I will never forget that ever as long as I live. It is one of my early memories. It is one of my most memorable memories, is sitting there and taking turns with my dad, dying on World 1-1 in Mario. It was really cool. My dad I don't think he ever played video games ever again, but that was a moment. That was a great one. Speaking of old games, a third one, Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link. Played this with Micah Huffman, my best friend growing up in Venezuela. He had a Nintendo, one of the other Nintendo in Venezuela. And Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link, Micah and I never beat it, but we got to the final castle, and Micah's older sisters, Rebecca and Sarah, they ended up beating it. So this is one Saturday. Micah and I play all morning. We cannot beat the final level. Sarah and Rebecca came out. We were all in the room, and they beat the final part of Zelda 2, and it was awesome. And I think it was the first video game I'd ever seen beaten, so we were going nuts. It was awesome. But Zelda 2, what like the Legend of Zelda is a top-down map where you walk around and you like poke your sword, and creatures are coming around you like Pac-Man. Creatures are coming around little barriers and rocks and trees. And you're navigating through them. You don't want to get hit by the bad guys like in Pac-Man. As Zeldas go on, it becomes a third-person, over-the-shoulder video game with like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and up to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. It's a legendary video game. It's a legendary video game series with awesome games. You will see people with the Triforce tattoo. I feel like I see that tattoo, at least once every few months on somebody. Excuse me. Jeez Louise. I just want to do that. I've been wanting to do this podcast forever, and now is the one where I'm just having like whatever this issue is with my voice. But the thing with Zelda 2, it began this love for me for drawing maps, because Zelda 2 was unlike the other games I just mentioned. There was a side-scrolling part of Zelda 2. So you would get into like the castles or whatever, the towns, and you would walk left to right to left, jumping over enemies, stabbing at enemies, all the things, all the weapons, whatever. And that was like the main levels. But when you would leave a castle or a city, it went to right, it would go to like the Zelda theme, and you would be walking around this big world map where you'd walk and you could see the towns you wanted to go to, and you'd walk to them. And as you were walking on the map, bad guys would appear, and you'd try to avoid them. But if they hit you, you would go into a side-scrolling level, and you'd have to get through it. But that game led to me really falling in love with the aspect of creating games. And I would make world map. I would just pay so much paper, so many notebook pages of me drawing these maps, putting little cities on them, like the Zelda 2 map. And then in my head being like, okay, what kind of game could I make, board game with dice, to get around and like make Zelda a board game? And I would make these awful board games in notebooks. So they would be on like the pages. I would have a map. So you'd open it up, and the first 2 pages of the notebook would be a map with like tiles on it. You'd roll dice and go through. And then I would have you landed on this city. Well, that city is on page 10. So you'd go to page 10, and there was like a city you'd roll dice and go through. It was a lot, but it kind of began my love of like trying to make games. Zelda 2, Adventures of Link. All right, we're only to game 4. Games 4, 5, and 6. I'm gonna mention here. Well, I'm looking at these. Wow, I didn't realize what I've done here. I'm gonna stick by this list because I wrote down 30 games that were important to me, and these are the ones that ended up winning it, being there. I guess I get why I did it this way now that I'm I'm looking at it. Borderlands 2. Borderlands 2 is an insanely important game in my life. So Borderlands 2, I need to see when this game came out. I can tell you right now it's either 2011 or 2012. Borderlands 2 came out September 18th, 2012. Yeah, of course it did. Of course it did. That would make all the sense in the world. So Borderlands 2 comes out, and I am not a huge first-person shooter game guy. I'm not good at them. I just am not. They've never been. GoldenEye, Halo, these games, I enjoy them. Call of Duty, Battlefield, coughing. I enjoy the idea of them, but I'm not good at them. Borderlands 2 came out, and it was getting a lot of hype. I got it. I thought the game itself was awesome. I liked the tone of it. I loved the story of it. I loved Handsome Jack, the bad guy. Claptrap was great. People were super annoyed with him. I liked him. I thought it was awesome. But the thing with Borderlands 2, at the time I was in my Madden leagues. I was playing a lot of Madden in my Madden leagues, and I'm part of the Madden Mania forums and then the Virtual Sports Network forums. And a bunch of the guys in the Virtual Sports Network forums we started playing Borderlands 2 together. And up to that point, I'd kind of just played Madden with a lot of these guys. Well, this game comes out, we start playing it, and we all realize we like other games. And it began probably the most late nights playing video games I've ever had in my life. And it's really when I built relationships with two guys I've never met, Jay Dizzle and Swarley. Two guys who those are their handles. I Am Medellin was in there. We would play Borderlands religiously every night, starting I would say about 7:00. Like the nights we played, someone would be on starting at 7:00, and we'd play until 3 a.m. And we would just be catching up. We would be on the headsets talking about life, talking about sports, talking about whatever. And these guys became super huge friends. And the reason I know it's 2012, I had just gone through a breakup, and I was in a relationship that I was just, whatever. You're young, you're in a relationship, it's everything to you. And the relationship ended, and I felt very alone. And I remember feeling very lonely. And I had my little apartment up in northern Spokane, and I was working on the Jay and Kevin show. And this was the mind issue with that radio show. I love it to death. But every day I would go on the radio and put on the show that we needed to do. And that was that I was the fun guy. I was the dumb guy, the childish guy. And so I'd go on, I'd try to be funny, try to be fun, try to be goofy. And then I would go home and be extremely sad. And it's like, I couldn't be sad on the radio in the morning. That's not good radio. So you're going on, you're putting on this show. And then I would just go home and I'd be alone, and I was super sad. And I was going through, in my life, a very sad time. And Borderlands 2 was where I got to go and talk to these guys every single night. And they really helped with getting me through some stuff and making it so that I always had people to talk to. Borderlands 2 is an extremely, extremely important game in my life. And it's got to be on the games to get to know me. I love that game. I still, Borderlands 4 is out now. I have it. I've been playing a little bit of it. I love that franchise, but there was some magic to that time for Borderlands 2. This next game, number 5 on my list, man. This one took me a very long time to put on my list. It took me a very long time. Not because of the game, but because which game? And was it going to be more than one? But I settled with Grand Theft Auto 5. And that is wild that I settled there, but this is where I settled. And it's going to be similar reasons to kind of these next couple games. And I think this is going to discuss, like when you look at this list, there is definitely some definition of how, if you want to know me, starting with that last game and moving forward, and even talking about some of the previous ones, there is an underlying theme that when I got this list done, I looked at it and I said, oh yeah, that's me. That's me. So we'll tie it all together. I've been complaining about how I don't tie my stories together. We're tying it all together today. So Grand Theft Auto 3 came out on my birthday, my 20th birthday, 2001, October 23rd. I have memories upon memories upon memories about Grand Theft Auto 3. Excuse me, man, this is bad to listen to. At my house on 32nd with Preston, the boys all coming over playing that game. Yeah. Grand Theft Auto Vice City, I've got tons of memories on that with Ryan and Scott. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, same thing. Grand Theft Auto 5, though, in my favorite video game franchise, Grand Theft Auto 5 is going to take the cake. I thought the game was awesome. I loved how huge it was. I loved the story in it. It's one of I beat it on PS3 and PS4. I think I also beat it on like one of the Xboxes. I love this game, but one of the things I love about it is when GTA Online came out. It came out, and what GTA Online is now is nowhere what it was in October of 2013? When did Grand Theft Auto 3 come out? Or Grand Theft Auto 5 come out? Grand Theft Auto 5. It came out in September 2013. So in October of 2013, when they released Grand Theft Auto for the online for the first time, which then it got shut down and everything got reset, we were playing it like we were playing it like crazy. And we would be on there, the Borderlands gang. We were on there all the time, except more people were on it. And I need to look real quick. I thought I had like some messages. Well, Brett, Kyle, and I were on it a lot. Jay Dizzle was on it a lot. And we were playing Grand Theft Auto Online in the clunkiest fashion where it's nothing like it was now. They actually remodeled the whole thing from when that was. But we were getting online, waiting like 15 minutes for the server to like catch up and get us into a game. And then it was like a 60% chance that it worked. And we would have waited for 15 minutes, but we're on the headsets talking. I think Grand Theft Auto 5 is an absolute masterclass in making a video game. Now, I'm recording this on the day when Grand Theft Auto 6 just got delayed again to November 19th of 2026. I hope that's the last delay. But I had to have a Grand Theft Auto on here, and I think Grand Theft Auto 5 takes the cake because I thought the game was great, and I thought online was really fun. I've got to give Fortnite some love. It's got to be on there. It is going to end up being one of the video games I've played the most in my life. This was kind of part of the COVID world for me, but the most important part with this is my relationship with the Harris brothers really blossomed because of Fortnite. Again, a game we got to play online, get the headset, and just hours upon hours of hilarious chatter. You know, we'd play basketball at Peaceful Valley, then we'd jump on Fortnite, and we would just recap the entire like we would have played basketball for 2 hours and we would do a 6-hour recap of that 2-hour game somehow. And it was awesome. We still play it to this day. So Marcus, Mike, and I are still playing to this day. I'm not good at it, which is why I would not be in like my top 10 favorite games because I'm not good at it. I just get really frustrated with it. They're really good at it. But in terms of games that define me, games to get to know me, Fortnite has to be on that list. Still playing it today. Hour-wise, it might be the second most played video game of my life. Fortnite. Number 7. And this is weird how this is playing out. Number 7, it does have a story with it. Number 7 is a game that I was most intrigued about maybe in my lifetime. It is the genre of video game I am still, to this moment, the most interested in. And it's not sports. Sports is up there. RPGs, number 2. But massively multiplayer online role-playing games, MMOs, are my favorite and the genre and the genre I'm most interested in. And in 2000 and 2001, EverQuest owned, well, not just 2000, 2001, but 2000 to 2005. EverQuest was the game. Then I didn't have a computer for a while, so I didn't play it. But this game, I don't know that I've ever been more interested in a video game and what it meant and what it was, and my brain going into a world where if I had done things differently out of high school, I really do believe that I was meant to get into game design and video game development. To the point where I would do overnighters with Micah Huffman, and people talk about like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I remember through junior high and high school, excuse me, we would like do our overnighters and we'd be talking as you fall asleep. And the amount of times I'd be like, man, I really wish I could make video games. And then I moved to the States and I just didn't understand that you could do that. Like you could go to school for it, and I just didn't realize that was a thing, and I never pursued it. I didn't know how. And it's probably if you get to go back and look at regrets, and I know people are like, I don't have any regrets. I think it's okay to look back and go, oh man, I wish I would have tried this. I wish I would have got into video game design because I think I would have really liked it. But EverQuest was a game that I look at and go, that's the kind of game I wanted to make. That's the kind of game I wanted to be a part of making and a part of expanding. And I think it's an amazingly magical game. It's a game I revisit from time to time. I can't believe it's still got an expensive monthly subscription, but it's a massively multiplayer online game. And it is, you choose from your class of, warrior, fighter. What are the EverQuest classes? EverQuest classes. They had, excuse me. They had gosh dang, I hate sometimes some of these websites. They had the Bard. They have the Beast Lord, Berserker, Cleric, Druid, Enchanter, Magician, Monk, Ranger, so on and so forth. And I would always be a Wood Elf Ranger. And, it was a game where you'd go online and you'd jump on and everyone else was online too. And the people you would see running around were real people also playing the game. And in the early 2000s, to me, that was the most overwhelmingly cool thing that could happen. You'd be in the chat and you would type a shout, and you knew other real people were seeing that, and that was amazing to me. That blew my mind. And so for me, that was like one of the biggest deals. So a couple things with EverQuest. Number one, I hated it. The first year out of high school, I lived with my parents. And so I had to play it in the middle of the night, overnight, because you had to be online. And so I would have to use the phone line to play EverQuest. So, I had to wait until mom and dad were in bed at 9 o'clock, and then I'd run, I'd run out to the computer and I'd log on to EverQuest and play EverQuest until forever. And I did that, and then I moved in with Preston, and I played so much EverQuest. There was a couple other MMOs that came out during that time, but he got a computer at CompUSA, and when he was gone, if he was working and I was home, I was playing EverQuest. I played it so much. Got my own computer, got EverQuest on it, played that a lot. Had a couple other places that I lived. I just love the game. I think it's great. I love MMOs. I still sometimes think, man, I should go back to EverQuest. But, it's been forever now. I just loved it. Okay. What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Number 8. I told you that, not all of these games are my top 10 favorite video games of all time, but they are 10 games to get to know me. My favorite video game of all time has to be on this list. Final Fantasy XIV is there. I just talked about EverQuest and MMO being, one of the most intriguing games to me. I forgot to tell this story. I forgot to tell my EverQuest story. I bought, at one point in time, for my mom and dad's computer, I was working at, working at Babbage's, and I had a discount, and I bought a nice video card that was like $100, which to me at the time was a lot, maybe $120. And I remember not wanting to tell my parents that I had spent $120 on this video card for their computer, and had to install it when, I was like, well, when they're not around, I'll install it into this computer and hopefully not break it, the family computer. And I was terrified. And I also remember, I realized then they never were away from the house. They were always at the house. So I had to do it in the middle of the night one night. I went upstairs, took the computer, brought the computer down into my bedroom, which was in the basement, took it apart, installed this video card, being terrified, and then went upstairs and tried to figure out how to load the drivers, and just sweating bullets that I had broke the family computer, and it ended up working. And I was like, EverQuest, here I come. Better graphics. I'll never forget that. Final Fantasy XIV, though, it's my favorite game of all time. It's the game I've played the most in my life. It is, I guess, I won't mention one other thing with it, because I'll mention it with the next game and why the next game was important to me. But I never got in the community aspect of Final Fantasy XIV like a lot of people do in some of these MMOs. I did get into a good guild in Final Fantasy XIV that had a really good Discord channel, and I really liked it. But I did that way later into my Final Fantasy XIV career. Otherwise, it was just me running around playing that game as a solo player, but then every now and then jumping into games with people. I love Final Fantasy. A Final Fantasy game had to be on my list. Had to. Because it's right behind Grand Theft Auto is my favorite video game series of all time. So a Final Fantasy had to be on the list. 14 is the one I've played the most. It's one that I would go back to right now and play. In fact, I was talking to my brother, and I was like, after I beat Clair Obscur Expedition 33 and finally finished Baldur's Gate 3, that is going to be my winter game. I'm going to go back to Final Fantasy 14 and dive back in and play, because I love it. I love it so much. Number 9, Diablo 3. Diablo 2 was really close. That was another game. One of the reasons I bought the graphics card for my parents' computer, which was just this terrible computer, was because Diablo 2. I bought Diablo 2 for, like $19.99 on a deal sometime at some point, and I just loved it. Diablo 3 came out. Jordan Carroll and I played the absolute crap out of that game. We played online together a little bit, and it was the very first video game I platinum trophied. So on PlayStation, at Xbox, you've got achievements. PlayStation has trophies. A lot of these games have platinum trophies. I've never really been good enough to get a platinum trophy. Diablo 3 was the first platinum trophy I ever got. Okay. And not only that, it was when I was streaming on Justin.tv before it was Twitch. And I was streaming, and I was getting big numbers of people watching me stream. And I got the Diablo 3 platinum on the stream, and it was nuts. I wasn't like I had a million people watching. I think I had like 90 people watching. I know that when I was doing Diablo 3, I was getting over 100 people in my stream watching it. And I would do Grand Theft Auto 5 and Diablo 3, and I kind of flip-flop streams. And I got that platinum trophy on my Twitch stream, and it was a wild moment. My chat looked like a bomb had gone off. It was just insanity over on the chat. It was a weird, cool, in my life video game moment that I'll never forget. And it was awesome. It was awesome. So those are my 9. There's one game left on the list, and it is the most important video game in my life. As I look at some of these and I look at the importance of like what Borderlands 2 meant to me, getting through a tough time in my life, MLB 99, 2 of my very best friends, Ryan and Scott, playing that in Gramps and Gramps' basement, with my dad playing Super Mario Bros., Micah Huffman hanging out Zelda 2, Final Fantasy 14, some friends here and there, Dalton getting on there with me playing that. I didn't even, there's some other games I haven't mentioned, Fortnite with Marcus and Mike. NCAA Football 11. I had to have either a Madden or NCAA on here. And Madden's super important in my life in the 2000s, beyond important. Overnight gaming sessions for NCAA and Madden, going to Hastings, being there for the midnight release, getting the game with Joe Fuqua. We would play it until we had to go to work the next day, go to work tired at 9 o'clock, having played 9 straight hours. Get back, Scott Ferguson would come over, we'd play. Just, season upon season of college football and Madden. Early college, NCAA 2002 with Chris Wanke, with Preston. He and I fallen in love with that series. Playing, we lived together. I think that game was, my PS2 was probably on for at least 2 straight months, because one of us was always home playing it. It was always on. It was always on. But NCAA Football 11 is when I got invited by my buddy Max into a little online dynasty called the AMC Dynasty. Andy, Max, Chris. The AMC Dynasty. And Max knew I liked video games. I knew Max from the radio station. And he was like, look, my buddies and I are in this dynasty called AMC Dynasty. You play video games. Would you like to join it? I'm like, yeah, I would love to. So I'm in the AMC Dynasty, and this is when I meet Chris Hoppy, Andy Gardner, 2 of my nearest and dearest friends, and eventually my buddy Jeremy. And these are guys I talk to every single day. This is like the friend group of friend groups. This NCAA Football 11, and Andy, you can tell me if I'm wrong. You can tell me if I'm wrong. I think it was 11. I don't think it was 10. Maybe it was 10, the Crabtree. Maybe Crabtree, I jumped in late on NCAA 10, but it might have been NCAA 09. I had a hard time remembering. It might have been 09, actually. I don't know. Anyways, NCAA 11, though, I remember a lot. We played a ton of that. That was a Tim Tebow year. So we must have started before that, AMC Dynasty. But eventually this turned into the Forge. if you opened up my text messages, you would see my messages have my wife at the top corner, my little brother in the top middle, and then right up there, Forge in the top other top corner. This is my guys. These are my guys. They're the guys. And I only met Andy and Chris and Jeremy because of Max. Thank you, Max. And because of NCAA football. And the impact they have had on my life is so beyond me even being able to describe it. What I mentioned with like the guys helping me out in Borderlands 2, some of the other relationships I've made like Grand Theft Auto 5 and stuff like that, and the people I've met through EverQuest and Final Fantasy, nothing in the world compares to the friends I made because of NCAA Football 11. This little video game that a couple guys made and are like, oh man, hopefully this game goes well and we make a bunch of money and we get a raise and we get to keep our jobs and all this. And, they're just making a game so that they can do their job. There's guys out there that do not realize that game, whether it was 11 or 9 or 10, whichever one it was that started it for us, the impact their video game had on a human being's entire existence is insane. Insane. Yeah, I mean, you talk about people that if they called me and they needed something, I'm telling you right now, if Jeremy, Andy, Max, Chris, if they called me right now and said, you need to get to Spokane, and I couldn't get on an airplane, I would start driving. I would start driving in a second. They are the ultimate. And we started this dynasty. We played the ever-living crap out of this game. We would try to play a game every 2 days. So everyone had to play a game every 2 days. And we do this for like the whole calendar year. So we would get through a lot of seasons of college football. And when you were done with your game, you hit RTA. Okay, RTA. And then everyone knew that your team was ready to go. So whoever the commissioner was, when everyone had sent their RTAs in, they could advance the week. And there was times we were hitting RTA 2 or 3 times a day. Like we were into this. And as life went on and people got married and Andy promised us that after he had kids, nothing would change. And then we never talked to him again. We kept this going longer than I think it should have. But it was the best. So I'm going to give NCAA 11 the most influential game in the game. If you want to know me, that's it. And so where do I tie it all together in this 15-minute podcast? I realize that if you want to get to know me, I'm about my friends. I'm about my friends. Because if I look at my shout outs here, Gears of War, Drez, there's no way, like, people aren't listening anymore, but if you know Johnny Drez, like let him know 40 some minutes in or 30 minutes in or whatever this is. Gears of War. John doesn't play video games. But John Dresbach, Jordan Carroll, and I would play Gears of War until 4 a.m., 5 a.m. every night. And we would be only playing with people from England because everyone in the States was asleep. And so it'd be Jordan, John, and I talking trash with all these English folk. And that was just like big time. I look at like Halo 2 and I think about Walter and I going over to Jan Michael Gamble's house and getting to play Halo 2 in his garage with his Porsches. And Walter and I like, where the heck are we? Like, how did we get here? Crazy. And like NBA 2K1 on Dreamcast, Reed and I playing it in his parents' basement. And we're online. One person's playing the game, the other's talking trash. We're Steve Francis and Coutinho Mobley beating people. My life, as much as I love video games, and I love them, my life is about my friends. That is my life. I think I've covered this a lot in the podcast. There are people who are way into work and they throw themselves in work and all they care about is progressing in work and where that's going to lead them in life and what that's going to do for them and provide for them and put them moving forward. And I think that's extremely valuable. And I'm more power to the people who do that. The relationships in my life are what matter to me. That is where I find all of my joy. In terms of like what people find in their job, mine is in my relationships, and I love them. And I was laughing that I love video games so much, but the video games that I just randomly picked as I went through and I said, what are the most important games to me? They all feed into my friendships. So even like as much as I love video games, I couldn't even avoid the fact that the video games that mean the most to me are because of all of these people in my life who are my friends, who are my rocks, and the people that I like, the things that I get excited about, and people I want to like be around and see and miss, like just miss desperately badly, and get so excited when I get a call or a message from some of them. That's what it's at. So I thought that was kind of interesting that I made my list of most important games, expecting it to be kind of a story of like, oh, well, I like I like sports games because I like sports, and I like this kind of adventure game because I like, Dungeons and Dragons stuff, and I like medieval times. No, it all boils down to like, I love my friends, and these games are games I played with my friends and my family. All right, there's your favorite 15-minute podcast. Those are the 10 games to know me. A lot of people's videos, they did this are like 5 minutes. So I went 10 minutes longer than that. Thanks for listening.